In most cases, for an NHL team to be successful in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you're obviously going to need your star players to play well, but on top of that, you're going to need an entire group effort. The NHL isn't like other sports where you can just stick a superstar on a team full of scrubs and have him carry them all the way to the finals. And with the NHL playoffs hopefully starting up in about a month and a half to 2 months from now, I wanted to talk about some players who I think can be real X factors for their team in those playoffs. And as always, if you guys are new to the channel and you want to see more NHL content like this, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And with that said, let's get right into it. I'm going to start off with a pretty obvious one, and that is Carey Price, goaltender for the Montreal Canadiens. For most of his career, he was regarded as one of the very best, if not the best goaltender in the entire NHL. When he's playing at his best, the Montreal Canadiens more than likely are always going to have an opportunity to win. But let's face it, the Montreal Canadiens are in pretty tough against the Pittsburgh Penguins in the play-in round, and not too many people are giving them a chance, outside of Montreal Canadiens fans of course. Me personally, I predicted the Pittsburgh Penguins to sweep the series 3-0 because I just think they are a much better team, and Carey Price didn't necessarily have an amazing year, but he's not all to blame because Montreal as a team didn't really have a good year. Which does sound kind of weird to say because they are in the playoffs technically, but their record was only at 500 at the time the season was paused, and they are definitely one of the teams that benefited most from this 24-team playoff format. With all that being said though, Carey Price does have some solid career numbers in the playoffs, with the .914 save percentage and a 2.53 goals against average. And like I said, if Carey Price, say, plays how he did in the 2015 season, then who knows what could happen in this series. I think this is pretty obvious, but Carey Price is, in my opinion, the biggest X factor for this team. They're gonna go as far as he takes them. The next player I want to talk about is defenseman Adam Pelech for the New York Islanders. Definitely not really a big name player compared to a lot of the other guys we're going to talk about in this video, but he is extremely important to that New York Islanders team, and when he's healthy and when he's on the ice, they are a much better team than when he's not. Back in early January, Pelech suffered an injury to his Achilles and has been out ever since. And I'm sure everybody remembers, before he was injured, the Islanders were an insanely good team. They went on that ridiculous win streak, but after he got hurt, things were kind of shaky, and this is a team that was on a 7-game losing streak at the time the season got put on pause. Although he is not a defenseman that's going to put up a ton of points or make the highlight reel, he's someone who's going to bring a lot of stability to their blue line and is definitely going to be a welcoming sight back into their lineup when the playoffs do get underway. I know there probably is going to be those people that say Adam Pelech is good, but he's not going to make that big of a difference for the New York Islanders. Feel free to have that opinion, but I personally think he is going to make a big difference. Before the injury, he averaged the second most ice time on the team, only behind fellow defenseman Ryan Pulock. And like I said, don't really look for Pelech to wow you with his skill or make the highlight reel, but when he's healthy and in the lineup, the Islanders are better off for it, so that's why I have him as a pretty big X factor. Moving along now to the next player, we have Alex DeBrincat of the Chicago Blackhawks. When it comes to Chicago, you know the guys like Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews are more than likely going to show up and play well for them in the playoffs. But it's going to be interesting to see a guy like Alex DeBrincat because this is going to be his first kick at the can. Because obviously his first 2 years in the NHL, the Blackhawks weren't a playoff team. I said this in the video I made talking about the play-in series, giving you guys my preview and predictions, but that Hawks-Oilers series has to be one that I am most excited for. I think it's going to be an extremely entertaining series. I think there's going to be a lot of goals, and in my opinion, for Chicago to stand a chance against the Oilers, they're going to have to score at a pretty good pace. And in order for them to do that, I think Alex DeBrincat is going to be a very important player for them in this series. Yes, he only had 18 goals and 45 points this year, but remember last season, which was just his second in the NHL, scored 41 goals and put up 76 total points. I mean, we know he can score goals at an elite level. Players like Alex DeBrincat and guys like Dominik Kubalik and Brendan Saw definitely have to step up in this playoff series and give Patrick Kane and Toews some secondary scoring if the Hawks do want to stand a chance against the Oilers. But I mean, if DeBrincat especially gets hot in this series, look out, because that could be pretty dangerous for Edmonton. Moving to the other side of the Hawks-Oilers series, I want to talk a little bit about Kailer Yamamoto because he was a real X factor for them basically ever since he was called up, and in the 27 games that he played, he was fantastic. Yamamoto was the 22nd overall pick by the Edmonton Oilers in the 2017 NHL draft, and I know it's early, but it's looking like he could turn out to be a steal for them, especially considering Edmonton was a team that needed depth on the wing in the worst way possible. It's nice to see a young winger like Yamamoto come into the lineup and play so well. 11 goals, 15 assists for 26 points in 27 games. For the most part, played on a line with Leon Draisaitl and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I think that line will probably stay together at least for the first couple of games of the play-in series, and if that line continues to play well and carries their momentum into the playoffs, and then you have Connor McDavid on his own separate line, that just makes this Oilers team that much more dangerous. Even though he's only 21 years old and has only played 53 total games in the NHL, I think he's already a big X factor for this team. You know, guys like McDavid and Draisaitl are more than likely going to play very well. When it comes to Edmonton, you need secondary scoring from guys like Yamamoto and Nugent-Hopkins to take some of that pressure off of Draisaitl and McDavid. The next player I want to talk about is Paul Statsny of the Vegas Golden Knights. He's somebody who I've always viewed as a pretty solid overall playoff performer. In 2018, Statsny had a great playoff run with the Jets, putting up 15 points in 17 games, and was fantastic for Vegas last year in the first round against the Sharks with 8 points in 7 games. When Paul Statsny is playing at the top of his game, I'm not sure if there's a top 6 in the NHL that I would rather have than the Vegas Golden Knights. You look at that first line, William Karlsson, Riley Smith, and Jonathan Marchessault, they play fantastic together. And then if you have a second line of Paul Statsny, Max Pacioretty, and Mark Stone, I think that sets you up extremely well. And yeah, Paul Statsny's points per game is down a little bit from last season when he had 42 points in 50 games, but he still put up some pretty solid numbers. And as long as he's healthy in the playoffs, I wouldn't really worry about what he did in the regular season. When it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, I feel like there's a lot of people on that roster that you could look at as potential X factors. Alex Tuch, I'm a big fan of his game. He was fantastic for them in their run to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2018. Shea Theodore really broke out and became one of the top tier defensemen in the league this season. This team definitely has a ton of weapons, and I think they should probably be one of the favorites to come out of the Western Conference. Moving along now, I want to talk a little bit about Sergei Bobrovsky of the Florida Panthers. If I were to make a list of, say, my top 10 most disappointing players of the 2019-20 season, I think he would probably have that number 1 spot locked up. I had super high expectations for him coming into the season, and really just for this entire Florida team in general, because for the last couple of years when it came to the Florida Panthers, everybody knew they were a good team, but they needed to get a goaltender that could really get them over the hump. And then in the offseason, they signed seemingly one of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League to a massive contract. And again, it just made me have super high hopes for them heading into the season. But Bobrovsky just had a downright bad year, a .900 save percentage, a 3.23 goals against average. His playoff totals throughout his career aren't really the greatest either, so I don't feel extremely good about this team heading into the playoffs. And for the amount of money the Florida Panthers are paying him, he has to be better, especially in a series against the Islanders, who have great defense and great goaltending. Bobrovsky is a 2-time Vezina Trophy winner throughout his career. We know what he's capable of, and he really just has to show that for Florida in these playoffs, or I really don't think they have a shot at going anywheres. And now the final player we're going to talk about in today's video, Phil Kessel of the Arizona Coyotes. Like I said about Bobrovsky, how he would probably be number 1 in a top 10 most disappointing players list, Phil Kessel would probably be in my top 5 as well. He's somebody that I did have extremely high hopes for heading into the season. I remember last summer I made a video talking about 5 potential dark horses for the Hart Trophy, and I had Phil Kessel on that list, because I thought if he came into Arizona, put up like an 85 to 90 point season, and they made the playoffs, then he could have his name in that conversation. But Phil Kessel just didn't have a good year. 38 points, only 14 goals in 70 games. Arizona wasn't having an amazing year either. They really lucked out getting added into the playoffs because of this 2014 playoff format. But one thing that should get Coyotes fans a little bit excited is the fact that Phil Kessel has always been a pretty good playoff performer. He has 77 career playoff points in 87 games and is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He knows what it takes to go deep in the playoffs, and if he can really get hot for Arizona, and you add in guys like Taylor Hall playing well, Nick Schmaltz, Clayton Keller, and Christian Dvorak, then this team definitely legitimately could be extremely dangerous, but in my opinion, it all starts with Phil Kessel. That is going to wrap up today's video. I really hope you all enjoyed. Make sure to let me know down in the comment section below who are some other players that I didn't mention in today's video that you think can be a huge X factor for their team in these playoffs. With all that being said, I really hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to go down there and smash the like button. And as always, if you guys are new to the channel and you want to see more NHL content like this, then make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next video.